Okay, welcome back to part 2 of this restoration of a Pancotti Italian accordion. So what I'm going to do next is start to work on the reeds. Now, because there's 4 reed blocks in the treble and 3 I think in the bass, there's a lot of reeds to do. The first thing is just show you what they look like at the moment. So I'll hold it this way. Hopefully you can see that they're all of the valves are curling up. So all the valves need to be changed, as much of course, and the wax that's holding the reeds in is hard and brittle, so that's been there for a little while, so that's no longer providing a good seal between the reed and the reed block, so it's time to change. It's just gone too old. So what I'm going to do is take the reeds out. I'm going to take them out. There's 2 different sets of reeds here, and these are actually an octave apart, so these ones are an octave lower. So I've just marked on the reed block an L and an H, so when I come to put them back in again, I'm definitely sure which side each set of reeds goes in, just to remind myself. Now the trick here is to minimise any damage to the wood, because we don't want to damage wood. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to score all the way along the wax with a sharp knife, just to start off the process of getting the reeds out. Also, there's tiny little nails, and I'm going to lift those nails out of the way first before getting the reeds out. And then once I've got all that done, I'm going to get a sharp blade and gently just pry the reeds out. And once I've got them out, I'm going to give the reeds a clean, with first of all just getting the valves off and taking off any excess glue, and then I'm going to put them into a hot water with detergent bath in my parts cleaner and ultrasonic parts cleaner, just to get them as clean as I possibly can, so there's not any visible rust or anything on them, but they're just going to be a bit grubby. So I'm going to try and get them as sparkly as I can, so that the sound of the reeds is as good as it can possibly be. Okay, so I'll just focus the camera in, and the first thing I'm going to do is take the little nails out, and so let me just stop it and just focus. So all the reeds are out, and I'm just going to get some of the wax off the reed block. I've got a little kitchen knife, cutting knife that I've sharpened, so I'm going to scrape as much as I can off before sanding. This is Okay, next step is to get some 180 grit sandpaper. And I'm just going to cut some strips of this. This is a mucky old job, getting all the old wax off. So there's no other way of doing it. So I'm going to cut myself some strips of this 180 grit. I'm just going to fold it in half. And I'm just going to sand this reed block. Okay, so I've now sanded that reeblock and got it as clean as I can, so that's now ready for re-waxing the reeds back in. I'll have to do exactly the same thing for the other side, but I won't necessarily film that, but I'll do exactly the same for these reeds. I'll just put that out of the way for a sec. Whew, bit of a mess now. Next step is to collect all the reeds together. And start cleaning them up. But one thing I'm going to do is, which I could have done when they're in the reed block, but I've got them all up the way that they were in the reed block. I'm going to get a sharp scribe. I'm going to put a little diagonal line in the corner of each of those reeds, because I'm going to put them back in the same way up, and that just helps to keep consistency of tuning. So they would have been tuned in a certain orientation in that reed block, and I don't want to just turn them over and maybe upset that a little bit, because it will vary a little tiny bit between which way up the reed it is in the reed block. So I'm just going to put a tiny little diagonal in the corner of each. Now on the Honer reeds, they put a little H on the upper side, which is really nice because it just helps you work it out anyway, but this hasn't got that, so I'm just going to do it before I do anything else. Just a tiny little corner scratch. There we go. And then I know exactly what's going on. Now the next step is to take off the leather, and you can see it comes off so easy because the glue has just completely dried up. So take all the leather valves off. Okay, so that's done. Now, next step is to just clean up any excess wax and glue from the valves on the reeds. So I'm going to use a sharp blade and scrape. Okay, ooh, that's quite a lot. What I'm going to do next is do a clean up because I've got lots of wax and valves and tins and all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to do a little tidy up and then I'll show you my next step. Okay, so now the reeds have been removed, I've taken off the excess glue and wax and they're looking great for 90-year-old reeds. Looking fantastic. So what I'm going to do is pop them into the ultrasonic cleaner with some warm water and just a few drops of fairy liquid, and then once I'm going to give them about 15 to 20 minutes in there. And once they've come out I'm going to thoroughly dry them with a hairdryer so that they're completely dry, because obviously you don't want to keep the moisture on the reeds. So let's pop them in. You might just be able to hear my cat meowing. Hello, Bill. Oh, come on. Hello. Hello, Bill. That's a cat, Bilbo, having a meow. How are you doing? There you go. Give them a little bit of stir around. Okay, so let's plug this in. There we go. So I'm going to leave that for 15 minutes and I'll show you that when I've got them all out and dried off. Okay, so all the reeds are now out of the cleaner. I've just got my hairdryer, so I'm going to give them a blast and just give them a thorough drying off. So there we go. So I can now just put them on my little board. Let's put them on here. No particular order at the moment, they're just random. There we are. So I just turn that round. And that's my reeds, nice and clean, look nice and sparkly, and just tip it up maybe. There you are. So what I'll do next is exactly the same thing for the other side of the reed block, and then I'll show you that I've got them all out. And okay, so what I've got here, if I just zoom down there, is I've got both sets of reeds now cleaned and looking nice and shiny, and the reed block has been cleaned of wax. So I'm going to do a couple more things to prepare the reeds and to prepare the reed block for the next stage, and the next stage is going to be valving the reeds and then waxing the reeds into the reed block. So the first thing is on the reed block itself. What I want to do is make sure that the wood on the base here is as flat as possible, so there's no warping or undulations in there which would possibly cause some air to leak. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put some little consistent pencil lines, trying to make them the same kind of intensity all the way down, and then I'm going to run this along a perfectly flat surface until the pencil lines have gone. So what I'm going to use is a mirror, because I know that a mirror is perfectly flat, and then I'll just double-sided taped some sandpaper down, okay, kind of 240 grit. So now I can put the reed block onto that flat surface, and now I can run it across until I've taken off all the pencil lines. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, there we are. So I've taken off a little bit and it feels really smooth, and I've levelled it all back, so I'm happy with that. That's a nice finish. The wood feels really good quality actually, which is nice. So that's good. Put that down for a second. Now the next step is a critical one, and that's where I'm just going to go along the reeds and check the tip height. Now there's two things that can happen. I just want to find one to show. The tip could be too close. So if I zoom in, let me just try and zoom in so I can just... try that. Hang on. Oh, there we go. So the tip could be too close to the reed plate. Now if that's too close, what can happen is what you call choking. So because it's actually pretty much flush with that reed plate, any air that's passing over it is not going to disturb it, it's not going to make it vibrate, and it won't sound, so it'll just be a silent reed. So what I'm going to look for is that any choking reeds where the reed... so I just see if it'll focus again. Come here. There you go. Sorry. I'll check for any reeds where the tip height is flush with the reed plate, so it's choking. And what I'll do, I'll just get a little blade like this, and you just run it up to about halfway, and then very, very carefully apply some leverage to the reed, and just try to bend it very, very carefully so that the tip is a bit higher. Now, as a rule of thumb, what you're looking for is the tip height to be about the same as the thickness of the tip itself, the kind of how kind of thick it is. So if it's like if that tip was say a millimetre thick, you'd be looking for a millimetre gap underneath it. So that's what I'll do for the reeds that are choking. And then the other thing, I've got one I can show you here, so let's see if this is focus. Hang on, I just have to, no, I'll just refocus. There you go. So this one, the reed tip is too high, so it's about 3 times as high as it should be, so I've got a big gap between the tip of the reed and the reed plate. Now what I'm going to do here is carefully bend that reed down until I've got roughly the same amount of gap as the thickness of the reed. So to do that, what I'm going to do is get a pointer, which is like this, and I'm going to carefully push down just about halfway down that reed, right in the middle of it. Carefully bend that reed down. If you push at the end, you won't really get anything happening, so you have to go kind of go around the middle. But just be very careful, because if you go too much, you can physically kink the reed. And so just do a little bit at a time and check, and just try to ease it into its position. So all I'm going to do now is go along all of these reeds and check the tip heights, so checking for choking when the reed tip is actually flush with the reed plate and it won't sound, or if the reed tip height is too high. Now if the reed tip's too high, what you'll find is when you try to play, you'll find you have to put a lot of force or a lot of wind through to get that reed to sound, and so by reducing that tip height you can make that reed easier to sound. Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go through all of these reeds and just adjust all the tip heights, and when they're done I'll show you what they look like. Okay, so I've done all of the tip heights, which is great. So what I'll do now, I'll just change the camera angle. Oh, just here, actually. I'll change the camera angle and I'll just zoom in and just show you the reeds and show you what they'll look like. Just okay, so that will wrap it up for this little video. That's the reeds prepared and the reed block prepared. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is revolve the reeds and then wax them into the reed block. So that's the next step. So it's quite a lot of work refurbishing these accordions, because there's so much detail really that you got to get right all the way along. So you have to, the reeds got to be clean. The reed themselves have got to vibrate properly, the tip height's got to be fine, the reed block's got to be clean, it's got to be flat on the bottom. So there's all these things that you have to do just to try to get the result at the end, which is going to be really nice. So it does take time and patience, but it is worth it. And if you are like me and you like to get accordion singing and playing really well, it's definitely worth it, because you can transform something from a bag of noise into, you know, something which is playing really nicely and can be enjoyed by somebody for many years to come. So I'll do the next video quite soon of the revolving and re-waxing the reeds, and so thanks for watching and see you on the next video.